While Danny Koker has amassed a fortune from counting automobiles, the road has not always been smooth. It wasn't a simple departure for some workers. Even devoted supporters were taken aback by the grounds behind their dismissal. They are a very stunning store, they make excellent products. However, this was a little too. After years of quiet, Danny reveals the 5 worst team members to ever set foot in his workshop, including everything from dubious deals to huge disappointments. Okay, let's get started. Existence and its impacts. Although Danny Koker's birthplace was Cleveland, Ohio, he spent the majority of his formative years in the Motor City, Michigan, where the American auto industry was created and nurtured. Automobiles were an integral element of my upbringing in Detroit. Car displays were common and muscle cars screamed throughout the streets. This setting wasn't mere ambience for Danny, it molded him. The influence of his father, Danny Koker Sr., was substantial. He performed as a member of the Cathedral Quartet and other well-known bands. There was music in the home. However, engine noise also did. From a young age on, Danny inherited his father's love of cars. For the most part, Danny's leisure time as a teenager was occupied by automobiles. Under the hood, he delighted in getting his hands filthy. He breathed new life into aging cars by fixing them up. Danny was the king of vintage rides, while his peers were more interested in sports or video games. His devotion to classic muscle vehicles, choppers and hot rods, just intensified with time. Even though Danny had a passion for vehicles from an early age, he didn't discover his real passion until much later in life. His greatest opportunity would present itself in the most surprising way he couldn't have imagined. Danny relocated to Sin City in the early 90s. Even though vehicles were his life, he was also quite interested in the entertainment industry. He rose to fame as Count Cool Rider on local television in the late-night horror movie section. Danny would present classic horror films to the audience while dressed as a rock and roll vampire. It had a lot of character despite being corny and ostentatious. As a result, he became something of a Vegas cult hero. While Count Cool Rider was the punchline, Danny was always involved with cars. In the beginning, he only took care of his personal collection when he opened Count's Customs. His distinctive constructions became more noticeable as time went on. Danny did more than fix up cars, he gave them new life. Respect for the classics coexisted with daring, defiant flourishes in his style. A combination of flame paint treatments, low-slung attitudes and roaring engines became his trademark. In the Vegas environment, words got around quickly. In an effort to capture Danny's enchantment, Count's customizations started to attract celebrities, collectors, and automobile enthusiasts. A real gearhead. He never followed fashion. Because he made up his own rules, everyone followed them. One handcrafted vehicle at a time, Danny was establishing his reputation. And stardom remained a distant dream. His life would be turned upside down the moment he received a call that would land him on national television. Another smash success, Pawn Stars, was Danny's big break in television. Due to the proximity of Count's custom to the world-renowned gold and silver pawn shop, Danny started making appearances on the show as a motorbike and vehicle specialist. Danny was the go-to guy for automobile advice for the Pawn Stars squad. His no-nonsense attitude, charisma, and wealth of information won him many fans. The producer saw Danny's popularity among viewers and came up with the idea for a spin-off series. The History Channel first aired Counting Cars in 2012. Danny and his crew at Count's Customs were the focus of the presentation as they breathed new life into vintage cars through restoration and customization. Counting Cars was noticeable right from the start. There was no phoniness or forced plot points. It was obvious that Danny's passion for vehicles was genuine. People who watched felt a connection to the shop's personalities, inventiveness and passion. Each episode was like spending the day in Danny's garage with close friends, since he treated his staff like family. With just 3 seasons under his belt, Counting Cars had risen to the ranks of television's most beloved car shows. The next creation by Danny and his crew captivated millions of viewers. Even while the cars were spectacular every time, what really made the show was the characters, their antics, relationships, tension, and victories. Danny's shot to fame after Counting Cars became a smash hit. His interests extended beyond cars. He became famous on television. A businessman who represents traditional ideals in a modern environment that is constantly evolving. He never allowed his fame to alter who he was, though. In music and automobiles, he remained true to his beginnings. Additionally, Danny grew his brand Las Vegas music venue called Count's Vamped Rock Bar and Grill, allowed him to combine his 2 great passions, music and motorcycles. As he ran his enterprises, he kept on creating bespoke automobiles, touring and making appearances. In spite of the increased scrutiny, Danny maintained his concentration on the tasks at hand, creating innovative rides in accordance with his original idea. With the help of the reliable mechanics and artists he assembled, Counting Cars became an exceptional project. Danny became famous thanks to Counting Cars. But he wasn't prepared for the cost of his fame. Emergence of issues behind the scenes was putting his hard work to the test, the truth as it unfolds backstage. The TV show made Counting Cars look easy. The construction seems to be done swiftly. Team spirit was contagious. Every episode concluded with the autos looking flawless. Things were not always so cut and wide, though. There was a great deal of strain and difficulty associated with life inside Count's traditions, but viewers never saw any of it. Work on a vehicle requires patience. There are moments when it's tedious and tediously slow. One episode showcases a complete build that works out to a total of less than half an hour. However, in practice, constructing or restoring a single vehicle can typically take several weeks, if not months, at the parts ordered. Not all of them are common, while some are really slow to come. The crew has to disassemble vehicles, repair damaged parts, and sometimes start over if things go wrong. In addition, they need to polish, paint, and test the engine to ensure it functions smoothly. All that effort needs to be condensed into a brief episode. In order to gather enough footage, the TV crew films for days. The material is then condensed by editors into a single, concise story. The level of craftsmanship put into each car remains hidden from the spectator. When it comes to Danny Koker's builds, quality is paramount. Poor craftsmanship is not tolerated by him. He returns the paint if he thinks it looks off. Further inspection is required if the engine makes an unusual noise. The strain on the crew is already high since he demands perfection from each car. Real deadlines must be met by the crew in order to make the show exciting. Doing both at once is challenging. The squad put in extra time on certain days simply to stay up. People became exhausted from such kind of pace. Even if working on a TV show was stressful, his crew would be even more tested by the spotlight of fame. Danny would soon find out that being the center of attention was not for everyone. In the beginning of the episode, Count's Customs was just a little shop. Like a close-knit family, the workers. They were automobile crazy, often making each other laugh. That sensation persisted for some time. Everything shifted though as the show became popular. In an instant, the store was a household name. Travelers from every corner of the globe began to descend upon the area. Many admirers were eager to visit the store, chat with the cast and snap some photos. Many spectators hung around outside all day as the group attempted to get things done. Others began pounding on doors. Being adored felt good at first, however it became an issue as time went on. There was more to the store than met the eye. Tourists would stop there. There was total chaos on the crew. Things moved at a snail's pace due to the background noise, the images, and the queries. Some team members' behavior changed as a result of their fame. Some employees changed their behavior as soon as the television cameras began rolling. The attention was too much for some. Some people wished for more money or more credit. Problems arose due to ego. Former pals turned into co-workers with a strained relationship. Dan got stuck handling everything. In addition to being the showstopper and boss, he was a meticulous builder. But now he had to deal with the stress of working on television as well. Notoriety and expanding company requirements. One man couldn't possibly handle all of that. Danny expanded his business empire as the shop became wildly successful. In addition to selling branded merchandise and making public appearances, he opened a rock bar. And that just made things worse for him. Issues with the law also ensued. Some former employees took legal action. Some people said they were wronged financially or otherwise. These court battles were a drain on resources and diverted focus from the store. In addition, Danny needed to safeguard his reputation and business by securing fresh contracts. Individuals who used to construct automobiles for amusement now had to conform to regulations, sign paperwork, and behave in a specific manner when filmed. Everyone found it difficult. Seasons 3 and 4 revealed a drastically changed squad. Some people's faces vanished, while others simply departed. Some were let go following heated debates or dramatic incidents. Although viewers never saw the full story, they did notice changes to the cast. It was the cause that kept Danny's attention. He was adamant about doing things properly from the start. However, there were times when the stress overwhelmed even him. In addition to directing a staff, maintaining customer satisfaction, and running a successful business, he was also committed to maintaining the high quality that had brought his shop fame. At Count's Customs, fame altered everything, and not always for the better. Betraying Danny in ways that stunned even longtime followers were some of the people he trusted the most. Frontiere, a shocking development in the making of counting cars, occurred from an unseen character who the majority of viewers never got a chance to meet. Even though he wasn't involved in the automotive industry, Joseph Frontiere was an integral part of Count's Customs. He was the bookkeeper for the business. That implies he was in charge of the company's finances, including making payments, overseeing wages, and recording expenditures. Everything appeared to be okay first. A great deal of responsibility was placed on Joseph's shoulders. Yet as time went on, the shop's finances began to exhibit some peculiar behavior. Something major was discovered as Danny and his crew dug more. More than $75,000, 0 cents, had been pilfered from Count's Customs by Joseph. He made matters worse with his approach. He put his own money down on a Range Rover and other expensive items using corporate money. He himself covered the costs of airfare and travel. There was no error on his part. There was no mistaking his actions. Even Danny Koker's signature was forgeried by him, so he could pull it off. In an effort to conceal his theft, he forged official documents. The news infuriated Danny and the rest of the squad. It was more than just an oversight. It amounted to treachery. An individual whose job it was to safeguard the shop's finances squandered funds that might have gone towards construction, payroll, or operational expenses. Legal action was taken by Count Customs in 2016. They took legal action against both Joseph Frontiera and Randstad USA, the staffing agency that had employed him. According to the store, the agency should have done more thorough background checks on him. Details of the complicated case eventually leaked out, shocking fans. Joseph had already left the show when the story spread. Actually, there was no apparent reason for his absence from episodes, no on-air conflict, no farewell sequence. He had merely departed. Everyone could see the reason now. Problems with trust and disappearing funds followed him everywhere he went. Joseph stepped away from the limelight after the lawsuit. There were no big developments regarding him, and he refrained from making public statements. To the best of his fans' knowledge, he has vanished entirely. Nothing in the way of social media, television appearances, or interviews. He vanished the moment he was apprehended. The shop was profoundly affected by his acts. Danny started to be more selective about the people he trusted behind the scenes. A more stringent system of financial and administrative controls was instituted by the group. The experience taught me my lesson. Joseph Frontiera's deeds were as destructive as any broken engine. Even though he never touched a wrench or painted a hot rod, even though he was never seen by the general public, Counting Cars aficionados consider him one of the show's worst employees. Even worse than Joseph's thievery was the fact that Danny would encounter other financial difficulties. Our next employee on the list would be a major pain in a whole new manner. When the counting automobile started, one of the first faces that fans saw was Scott Jones. In addition to helping out with the books, he was also the shop manager. He was the unsung hero who kept everyone on the same page, the finances in check, and the clock ticking. Danny Koker was the show's creative director and public face, but Scott was the one who kept everything on track. On paper, at least. Viewers could tell that Scott was a fiery character in the pilot. He spared no words and took himself seriously. His primary responsibility was to prevent the misappropriation of funds, which frequently caused friction with Danny. When it came to the building, Danny had lofty goals and occasionally wanted to test the boundaries. To keep expenses down, Scott was there. Make sure the crew is aware of the budget and that business comes first. The tension was palpable, particularly on film. When Danny's ideas got out of hand, Scott would dispute him, question costs, and push back. The squabbling entertained some in the audience. Some people felt it really drove a wedge between them. It was apparent in nearly every episode of the first two seasons that the two had distinct styles. However, an unusual event ensued. Scott left after the second season. Farewell explanation and a major scene were non-existent. While overseeing bills and doing some math, he found himself in the shop one day. He vanished the very next moment. As soon as word got out, fans began to ask questions. Word got out on the internet. He was allegedly let go due to financial mismanagement, according to some. Some speculated that a more sinister struggle was taking place behind the scenes. The show never provided a definitive response to the exit, and none of the allegations were ever proven. The reality is actually considerably less complicated, as revealed in subsequent publications. Due to Scott's own desires, he relocated to Tennessee. His want to be with his loved ones was strong. Money and controversy have nothing to do with the decision. New priorities and life changes were the topics. Distancing oneself can be motivated by factors beyond one's employment. Off camera, it's all about what's important. Scott has been rather busy ever since. In Tennessee, he currently operates under the name Kayers Extreme Automotive. He has also made an appearance on Swap Shop, another vehicle and collectibles themed Netflix series. He might not be involved in the counting process anymore, but he is still fulfilling his lifelong dream of working with cars and ensuring their efficient operation. Even though Scott Jones wasn't universally beloved by viewers, he was crucial in the pilot episode. When everyone else was saying yes, he was the one who said no, the firm voice of reason. Although he quietly left the show, his time there was memorable. Due to family matters, Scott departed incognito. However, not all cast members who abruptly left the show did so out of the goodness of their hearts. Whoever we're going to talk about next is someone that the fans adored, at least until they learned the truth. My name is Rolly Sabo. From seasons 2-6, Rolly Sabo was a fan favorite on Counting Cars. He was the head detailer at the store, ensuring that each vehicle that departed from Count's Customs seemed immaculate. However, Rolly's reputation extended beyond his labors. Additionally, he added something unique to the screen: personality. With a broad grin and a heavy Hungarian accent, Rowley spoke. He had boundless energy, a quick wit, and an abundance of one-liners and silly moments at the ready. With his energetic dancing and hilarious jokes, he made the store come alive. And maintaining an upbeat attitude, even when working long hours, the combination of his work ethic and sense of humor won him many fans. Rowley, though, was not merely making a show. In terms of fine detail, he was a genuine perfectionist. Whether it was a unique vintage or a bespoke lowrider, he meticulously polished and cleaned it. His character was congruent with his abilities. He was esteemed by the crew, as well as the devoted followers. A lot of people started rooting for Rowley at the end of season 4. On social media, viewers praised his meticulousness, laughed at his antics, and chatted about him. He was one of the few actors on the show who could boost the humor without coming across as insincere. Not only did his work feel genuine, but so did his laughing. Afterwards, an unforeseen event transpired. The shop's lost detailing equipment was public knowledge in 2017. It wasn't a couple of little tools. Equipment valued at thousands of dollars has mysteriously disappeared. Rowley departed shortly thereafter as well. He abruptly left the stage without providing any notice or justification. He spent a week there making jokes and polishing automobiles. After that, he had vanished from the crew's sight. No farewell shown on screen. What transpired remains undisclosed. Complete stillness. Word got around later that Rowley might have something to do with the lost equipment. Some said that he disappeared with the tools and never came back. No formal public declaration was ever made by Count's Customs yet. Suspicions were aroused by the coincidence of his departure and the crime. Fans were taken aback by Rowley's unexpected passing. Nobody could have suspected he was involved with such a plot. Some fans were just disappointed that the beloved cast member had to leave without a proper send-off. However, Rowley was not totally absent. After leaving the show, he remained in Sin City and started his own business, custom detailing by Rock and Rowley. His work with automobiles is ongoing, concentrating on automobile counts with the same meticulous attention to detail for which he was famous. His devoted clientele and the nature of his work allow him to remain immersed in his comfort zone. Danny's distrust in his team started with Rowley's misplaced tools, but the loss of the shop's most skilled builder on the next leaf would be the final straw. Okay, go. It was never Shannon Aikau's job to be the room's ringleader. Unlike Rowley, he wasn't funny. Unlike their peers, he refrained from arguing while filming. However, Shannon was head and shoulders above the competition when it comes to creating unique motorbikes. Unflappable, laser-focused and terrifyingly gifted was he. His quality stamp was evident in every weld and bike he worked on. He truly embodied the spirit of the shop's artisans. Shannon was an integral part of many of the most memorable motorcycle builds shown on Counting Cars during her time as the show's head builder. He was innovative, daring, and meticulous in his work. He took his time. He was meticulous. He created motorcycles that were as beautiful to look at as they were to ride. If it was a low-slung chopper, a vicious street cruiser, or a meaningful homage build, Shannon poured his heart and soul into it. His love for motorcycles shone through despite his reserved demeanor. His gentle demeanor and solid hands were much appreciated by the fans. Shannon quietly ensured that the job was done well, while others took center stage. Shannon has been a mainstay on the Counting Cars crew from the show's early seasons. Continually constructing, he was ever present, consistently producing high-quality results. In a society where celebrities abound, his sense of style was striking. As a skilled artisan, he preferred to let the bikes speak for themselves. However, things began to change as the show gained popularity. Fans started to notice that Shannon was appearing less and less. By season 7, he became less active on screen. In other episodes, he was barely visible. He disappeared for the most part by the next season. Danny didn't say farewell or hint at danger, and there was no dramatic leaving or large argument. Little by little, Shannon disappeared from view. Then what transpired? Rumors circulated amongst insiders and long-standing fans indicate that artistic differences were the driving force behind the change. The show's emphasis on story and drama increased as counting vehicles' popularity soared. There should be more confrontations, more dramatic tension, and more dramatic moments. While it did increase ratings, not everyone was happy about it. Particularly Shannon. Work and workmanship were the cornerstones of his life. He wasn't present for dramatic effect. Away from the drama, he aspired to construct fantastic motorcycles. Shannon lost interest in being on the show as the cameras started focusing less on the projects and more on the tales. The fast-paced, TV-friendly universe that Counting Cars was evolving into was at odds with his reserved personality. Shannon could have complained or caused a fuss, but she decided against it. Like before, he worked silently as he stepped back. Not a single public speech, accusation, or expression of animosity was made public. Shannon continued to create without stopping. He just moved on, absolutely not. Shannon Aikau is still a major player in today's motorbike scene in Las Vegas. With the same meticulousness and expertise, he keeps designing and building bikes. His labor has continued unabated, even if he is no longer appearing on screen. Even now, his name is well known among custom bikers, and his bikes are a talking point. Shannon is an example of a new form of success in many respects. Notoriety was not his goal. He remained authentic during his time on camera. He persisted in doing what brought him joy, creating aesthetically pleasing machinery by hand. Plus, he gracefully left when the program failed to live up to its promise. There weren't always lawsuits, stolen tools, or drama behind the scenes when someone decided not to count cause. Shannon's narrative stands out. No matter how much pressure you're under to perform, the most important thing is to be authentic to your art. People who were fans of him are still raving about him. Some have said that since he left, the show has been lacking, and they would likely be correct. Shannon provided equilibrium. He was quite classy. The most important thing was that he brought genuine talent, not bluster or crazy anecdotes. Shannon maintained his honor and reputation as he gracefully exited the scene. However, our last tale demonstrates the disastrous outcome that can result from an ego collision with creative thinking. Michael Henry. Fans couldn't help but notice Mike Henry, also known as Horny Mike. His horned helmet, wild mohawks, and fearless demeanor added vibrancy, excitement, and a great deal of joy to the car counting event. Mike, however, was more than a caricature. An artist he was, a genuine one, possessing exceptional skill and an individual style. At Count's Customs, he was the head airbrush artist, and it was his duty to create one-of-a-kind works of art out of motorcycles, helmets, and automobiles. Mike added the finishing touch, while the rest of the crew took care of the mechanics and bodywork. His artistic flair could elevate an ordinary vehicle to a whole new level with the addition of skulls, murals, metallic fades, and flames. Prior to his employment at the company, Mike honed his skills in custom paint and 3D modeling. Danny Koker took note of his unique perspective because of his heritage. Danny allowed him space to be himself, and they had a fruitful cooperation for quite some time. Mike's creations were unique. His supporters eagerly anticipated his next outrageous proposal. He rose to prominence as one of the program's most iconic figures in no time. His work, voice, and clothing all contributed to his popularity. Every episode benefited from his witty banter, charisma, and hilarious antics. But beneath all this silliness was a man who took his work very seriously. Each endeavor was important to him, frequently going above and above to ensure that every aspect is just right. It was not always simple to work within Count's Customs while being watched by television cameras. Mike felt strongly about things. In Danny's opinion, his ideas were occasionally a touch too daring. Slowly but surely, disagreements over ideas began to surface. Mike yearned for greater leeway to test limits. The onus was on Danny, as proprietor of the store, to safeguard the reputation of the brand and maintain consistency. The result was tension between two skilled individuals who were vested in the project's success. Mike was planning an extravagant display of color, texture, and wild patterns. On occasion, Danny required a more refined traditional style, or sometimes they disagreed. Tensions arise when powerful personalities are mixed. The pressure of productivity began to weigh on Mike as an added burden. We have really tight TV deadlines. Having an epiphany isn't always possible. There needs to be a regular delivery time for art. Mike began to crack under the strain. Although the event required quick turnarounds, masterful airbrushing is a time-consuming process. Mixing tones, building up paint layers, achieving the desired effect, it can take hours or even days to complete. Mike started to back off as the seasons passed. He became less active on screen. He did not make an appearance in any further episodes. When he did appear, it seemed as if his part had been diminished. While he was still an integral part of major projects, he was less prominent than in the past. It was noted by the fans. Concerned citizens wanted to know if something was amiss. Many assumed he had departed from the store. However, there was more nuance to the reality. Mike was not furious as he departed. He remained employed. His concentration has recently shifted to his own path. Mike is now the sole proprietor of Horny Mike Designs. Headgear, accessories, and personalized airbrushed artwork are his specialty. He continues to repair motorcycles and automobiles, but now he does it under his own label. He has been known to stop by car shows, fan gatherings, and even other commercials. In the realm of personalized design, he remains very engaged. Despite his growing independence, Mike maintains ties to Count's traditions. There's still some of him. He occasionally drops over to lend a hand and works on special projects. There has been a change of emphasis, but no animosity. What happens to a genuine artist working inside a fast-paced system like reality TV is depicted in Mike Henry's story. He added vibrancy, flair, and style to the performance. However, he had to move away from the limelight in order to be faithful to his craft. His flamboyant energy, crazy horns, and strong lines live on in the memories of his fans. From embezzlers to artists in need of space, he helped shape counting cars throughout his golden years, and his designs are still easily noticeable. Counting cars aficionados will never forget his contribution. Whether they were raucous or subdued, every exit made an impression. Would you like to read more script snippets from your favorite programs? Stay up to date with everything that TV doesn't tell you by liking, sharing, and subscribing.